Hello and welcome to WorkRise Shorts. I'm Kemiota Mosu, a research analyst at WorkRise, a research to action network focused on jobs, workers, and mobility, hosted by the Urban Institute. We have a great conversation lined up with Carl Van Horn, who is a distinguished professor and director at the Heldrich Center for Workforce Development at Rutgers University. And we'll be diving into his research, which looks at US workers' attitudes towards government oversight of AI technologies and its impact on jobs. So, Carl, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thanks very much for inviting me to this discussion.
Yes, of course. We're super excited to hear about this. And so I'll just jump right in with our first question. So, what is the exact problem you were hoping to address with this research or solve or advance?
Well, if you are reading anything in the newspapers and media and so on these days, you can't go too many days without reading about generative artificial intelligence. One of the things the Heldrich Center has done for 25 years is a project called Work Trends, in which we are exploring with a cross-section of American workers, their views about the economy, the workplace, and what's happening to them. It's part of what we consider an important message to get to policymakers, decision makers, union leaders, community leaders, and business owners about what American workers think about what's going on in the economy. So we decided we should certainly look into AI. It's at this early stage in some ways, certainly the last year since the revealing of the Chat GPT became so popular and many people became familiar with it. We wanted to wait to see how that was being received by workers. So that it's part of a long set of projects we've done over the years. And we thought it was important to explore this topic at this moment.
Yeah, thank you. That's some great background. And you've kind of touched on this, but I just want you to get at it explicitly. Why is this a problem? Why does it matter how workers are feeling about these issues?
Well, we're not sure it's a problem, but it may be. So it's important to find out what people think about this as policymakers are beginning to wrestle with the implications of this. It's also, as I said before, there are a lot of audiences for this, but we wanted to make sure that we did a national random sample of residents of the United States as well as workers, people who have a job full-time or part-time. And it's a way for them to be heard in policymaking circles. So we've studied the impact of technology before, and this is the new technology on the block, if you will.
Yes, very true. And so we're talking about workers' voice and how they're feeling. Can you start to explain some of your key research findings?
Sure, I think there's a number, but again, I encourage people to read the full report, but let me quickly summarize. I think perhaps the most important takeaway of this survey is that Americans, workers know and residents know about AI. At least they know a little bit about it. They've heard a little bit about it. And that cuts across the board, all income levels, education levels, and so on. And at this point, they're concerned about it. They are not panicked, but they are definitely concerned. And perhaps the punchline is this cuts across all party lines. So in a world where we are experiencing so much partisan division, there's no difference between people who identify as Republicans, independents, or Democrats about their desire to see the government impose some regulations on artificial intelligence. And why are they concerned about that? Because they're concerned, their primary concern is it may cause them to lose their job or not be able to get a job or advance in a job. And also that it may cause them to be demoted or promoted without actually interacting with a human being. And this is a common problem with technology, which is the fear of not being able to advance yourself directly. This was first expressed in many ways by the automated tracking systems when people applied for a job. They never got a call back. They never found out what happened to me. I just got eliminated. So as I said, this is a long-standing concern, I think, with Americans. And now we're seeing AI is the new concern. They're not panicked about it, but they certainly have some degree of concern and worry.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point to bring up. And so, yeah, you've mentioned a little bit about government oversight and the role they have in protecting workers. But I'm curious, do you feel like there are other stakeholders who are best positioned to advance this research, whether that be the policymakers themselves, the workers, or employers, advocates, certain sectors that may be more affected? And what do you hope that they can do or change?
Well, again, it's sort of all of the above. What you're saying is this is potentially either a transformative technological change or it isn't. So we really don't know, right? So we're in this period of uncertainty. How much will it be advanced? And if you read the literature, which I have, the predictions are all over the map at this point. But it's something that people should have their eye on. So, and I think by and large, people are beginning to pay attention. For example, President Biden signed an executive order directing his agencies to begin developing policies around generative AI. There's congressional hearings going on, but it's also a matter of interest to labor unions and to community groups as they begin to think about this. So, for example, people who are traditionally disadvantaged because they lack advanced degrees or people of color, they express significant concern about this because they've experienced some of these problems in the past. It's not surprising they'd be concerned about this. Well, this is another thing to be concerned about. Am I going to have the technological skills to be successful? Where am I going to learn these skills? So again, it's at least at this point, I think, a large enough issue that I'd really say all of the above, that people should be concerned about this. That doesn't mean that the house is on fire, but there may be some embers burning outside and you should look at it.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds like there's a lot of stakeholders that can get involved with this, before it escalates to that point. So, Carl, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this work. And for those of you interested in learning more, please feel free to check out Carl's study. It's a great one. Thank you.
Thanks very much for asking me.